Governor Healy and supporters say that these stricter gun laws will save lives, but others say it may have gone too far.
Healy signing into law gun reform legislation that aims to crack down on so-called ghost guns.
We're taking action to combat ghost guns and 3D printed guns. Now we've come together to enact our state's most significant gun safety legislation in a decade. Because as technologies advance, our laws need to advance with them.
Massachusetts tightens arm laws. In a decisive move for armed safety, Governor Maura Healey recently signed a significant overhaul of Massachusetts arms laws, marking a critical step in the state's commitment to combating armed violence. This new legislation, which passed the House and Senate after months of intense negotiations, is designed to address both immediate and long-term concerns about arms regulation. The bill comes in the wake of a contentious Supreme Court ruling that Healey described as a serious threat to public safety. The ruling, known as the Bruin decision, had sparked fears that existing arm laws might not be robust enough to protect communities. In response, Massachusetts lawmakers crafted this comprehensive package to enhance the state's already stringent arm control measures. One of the bill's key provisions targets ghost arms, homemade arms that lack serial numbers and are difficult to trace. These arms, often assembled from kits or 3D printed, have become a growing concern due to their increasing prevalence among criminals. The new legislation introduced stricter regulations to curb the manufacturing and distribution of these untraceable weapons, a move that Governor Healey has long championed. Additionally, the bill expands existing laws that allow courts to remove arms from individuals deemed a threat to themselves or others. This provision aims to prevent dangerous individuals from accessing arms, thereby enhancing public safety. By broadening the criteria and streamlining the process for these interventions, the legislation strengthens the state's ability to address potential threats more effectively. Another notable aspect of the law is the extension of arm restrictions to specific locations. The bill designates schools, polling places, and government buildings as areas where carrying arms is prohibited. This extension is intended to create safer environments in places where the presence of arms could pose significant risks to public safety and order. The passage of this bill was not without controversy. Despite strong support from many lawmakers and advocacy groups, a small group of Democrats joined Republicans in opposing the final version of the bill. Their dissent highlights the ongoing debate over armed control measures and the balance between public safety and individual rights. Governor Healey expressed strong support for the legislation, emphasizing its importance in the wake of the Supreme Court ruling. Massachusetts is proud of our strong arm laws, but there is always more work to be done to keep our communities safe from violence, she stated. She praised the bill for addressing the growing issue of ghost arms, enhancing measures to keep arms out of dangerous hands, and investing in community-based initiatives to tackle the root causes of violence. Healey is confident that this new law will have a positive impact, declaring it a crucial step towards saving lives. In addition to the immediate effects of these legal changes, the bill also represents a broader commitment to addressing armed violence through a combination of regulation, prevention, and community support. By updating the state's arm laws to reflect current challenges and technologies, Massachusetts aims to maintain its leadership in armed safety and continue its efforts to protect its residents from the dangers associated with arms.
We're taking action to combat ghost guns and 3D printed guns. Now we've come together to enact our state's most significant gun safety legislation in a decade. Because as technologies advance, our laws need to advance with them.
Tougher arm laws. Governor Maura Healey, who did not draft her own arms bill but signed one prepared by the legislature, is set to hold a ceremonial bill signing event next week. This event will serve as a celebration of the significant progress made over the past 2+ years by lawmakers and activists working towards this landmark legislation. The bill is expected to be one of the standout achievements of Healey's first legislative session as governor, highlighting her administration's commitment to armed safety. The newly signed law addresses several pressing issues related to arm control, with a particular focus on ghost arms. These arms, often assembled at home by individuals without proper licensing, have raised significant safety concerns. To combat their proliferation, the legislation mandates that all arms, including individual frames and receivers, be stamped with serial numbers. This requirement aims to make these weapons traceable and curb their illegal use. Additionally, the bill introduces new penalties for the possession, creation, and transfer of these untraceable arms, reflecting a broader strategy to enhance public safety. Public Safety and Security Secretary Terrence Reedy emphasized the importance of the legislation, stating, "Untraceable arms like ghost arms and 3D printed weapons pose a tremendous risk to public safety, and our laws must evolve to stop the proliferation of these dangerous weapons." He highlighted that the new law not only strengthens the state's ability to combat armed violence and hold offenders accountable, but also reinforces Massachusetts' position as a national leader in effective armed laws. Another critical aspect of the bill is the expansion of the 2018 Red Flag Law. This provision allows school administrators and licensed health care providers to petition a court to temporarily remove arms from individuals deemed a threat to themselves or others. The updated law clarifies that anyone who has had their arm license revoked under this Red Flag Law cannot obtain any new arm licenses or identification cards while the Extreme Risk Protection Order is in effect. This enhancement aims to provide more comprehensive measures for preventing potentially dangerous individuals from accessing arms. The legislation also includes provisions to streamline the arms licensing process and regulate modifications that can convert semi-auto arms into automatic ones. It strengthens data reporting requirements and aligns standards for carrying arms or hunting while intoxicated with those for driving under the influence. This alignment reflects a broader effort to ensure consistent and effective regulations across various aspects of arm use and safety. Additionally, the bill introduces new criminal offenses and strengthens existing penalties related to the use of arms. It creates a criminal offense for firing an arm and striking an occupied building or dwelling, and it increases penalties for firing an arm within 500 feet of a dwelling without the owner's consent. These measures aim to deter reckless behavior and enhance accountability for arm misuse. The bill also addresses licensing requirements for semi-auto rifles. Currently, residents can obtain an arms license at 18 years old, allowing them to purchase semi-auto rifles. The new legislation will require a license to carry, available only to individuals 21 and older to purchase these rifles. This change aims to impose stricter controls on the acquisition of potentially dangerous arms. Michael Bradley Jr., the outgoing chief of police in Upton and executive director of the Massachusetts Chiefs of Police Association, voiced support for the new law. Bradley expressed appreciation for the collaborative efforts of Speaker Mariano, Senate President Spilka, and Governor Healy in reaching a compromise on arm reform. He emphasized the association's commitment to working closely with the administration to address any challenges that may arise and ensure the effective implementation of the law's provisions.
By the change that is represented by this bill, we need policy change to make sure our communities are safer from gun violence.
It's sensible gun legislation that protects the Second Amendment rights of individuals for those that are using illegal weapons or selling illegal weapons, particularly in our cities and towns, but also put some really strength into the laws.
Massachusetts arm reform. Massachusetts has recently enacted a significant update in its arm control laws, reflecting a strong stance on arm regulation and public safety. The new law introduces several key changes aimed at enhancing the state's ability to address armed violence and control dangerous arms. One of the major updates involves the expansion of the state's attack weapons ban. The new definition of attack weapons now includes not only those specifically identified as such, but also other arms that function similarly based on certain features. This broader definition aims to cover a wider range of attack-style arms, closing loopholes that might have previously allowed similar weapons to be possessed legally. The law now prohibits the possession, transfer, or sale of those expanded categories of arms and large-capacity feeding devices, targeting weapons designed for high-volume firing and increased lethality. In addition, the law places strict restrictions on mash arms. Aside from arm instructors and bona fide collectors, no one else will be allowed to obtain a license to carry a mash arm. This measure aims to prevent broader access to these highly dangerous weapons. The legislation also criminalizes the possession of arm parts intended to make weapons more lethal. This includes parts such as automatic components, bump stocks, rapid-fire trigger activators, and trigger modifiers, which can significantly increase a weapon's firing capability. By including these parts under the state's mash arm law, the new legislation aims to curb modifications that enhance weapon lethality. Ruth Zacharin, CEO of the Massachusetts Coalition to Prevent Armed Violence, praised the new law for its comprehensive approach to the armed violence crisis. She highlighted the extensive effort by House and Senate leadership over nearly 2 years to craft this bill and expressed gratitude to Governor Healey for signing it into law. Zacharin emphasized that the multifaceted approach of the legislation is crucial in addressing the epidemic of armed violence in the state. John Rosenthal, founder of Stop Hand Arm Violence, echoed similar sentiments. He described the new law as a measure that would close dangerous loopholes in existing laws and save lives without inconveniencing responsible arm owners. Rosenthal's support reflects a belief that the updated regulations strike a balance between public safety and the rights of lawful arm owners. However, the new legislation has faced significant opposition from arm owners groups. Critics argue that the bill infringes on Second Amendment rights and is a reactionary measure rather than a solution to an existing problem. Jim Wallace, executive director of the Arm Owners Action League, criticized the bill as a tantrum following the Supreme Court's Bruin decision. Wallace suggested that the law was a response from those who were unwilling to accept the court's ruling, framing the legislation as an overreach rather than a necessary reform.
I stand here today not just representing my family, but the way too many other families who are still waiting for answers.
The NRA says they're planning to legally challenge the legislation, but speakers at today's signing, including House Speaker Ron Mariano, say they are not concerned about this challenge.
That's all for this video, folks. We'll see you next time.